my wife's secret affair with a repairman, and how it almost destroyed everything. Imagine discovering that the person you trusted the most, your own wife, had crossed emotional and physical boundaries with someone she barely knew. And then, imagine realizing that the story she told you for years might not even be the full truth. This is the story of a marriage held together by half-truths, fear, and a shocking confession that resurfaced decades later. I want to start this story with what my wife told me back in late 1989 and early 1990. Some parts of her timeline have changed over the years, but the core remains the same. At the time, she was working at Central Bank in Huntsville, Alabama. One of her responsibilities was managing the ATM machines at the Jordan Lane location. That was where she first met Phil, the Diebold repairman. She told me that Phil had blue eyes and a mustache, traits similar to mine, though he was taller and heavier. The ATM at that branch broke down often, which meant they interacted frequently. Over time, she and Phil developed what she described as a very natural, easy friendship. According to her, they could talk casually, joke around, and even finish each other's sentences. Looking back now, that description feels like the earliest sign of a boundary shifting. I remember a moment between us during that period, when she and I were in the bedroom. Out of nowhere, she asked if I wanted an open marriage. The question stunned me. She had never brought up anything like that before. During that conversation, she asked if I had been having an affair. Her reasoning was that the way I had been treating her made her think I might be. At that point, I admitted I had been involved with someone named Judy S., a story for another day. What surprised me even more was her response. She said she approved, saying Judy was clean. I didn't understand that reaction at the time. Years later, everything lined up. Around the time she left Central Bank, she admitted she had wanted to get close to Phil in a physical way, and eventually she did. According to her, it happened 3 times. Although the details she remembers have faded, certain moments remain vivid to her even now. She described one moment inside the ATM service room, a small space that could be locked from the inside. Phil had gently lifted her chin and asked if he could kiss her. She said yes. They shared a moment that crossed the line between friendship and something more. Since it was nearly lunchtime, they agreed to meet later that day. They chose a secluded area of a Walmart parking lot. She told me she had felt more fear than excitement, not because of Phil, but because someone might see her getting into his work van. She emphasized how stressful the situation felt, yet she still chose to go through with it. Inside the van, in the back area where the tools and equipment were stored, they grew physically close. They exchanged kisses, held each other, and shared moments that went far beyond anything appropriate. They removed some clothing, touched, and explored each other in ways she described to me years later. She told me they laid together for a while, talking, touching, and becoming even more physically intimate. According to her, he kissed her, held her closely, and got carried away in ways she didn't fully enjoy. She preferred softer gestures, but didn't speak up at the time. The physical encounter continued until they reached a point where they had to quickly clean up, get dressed, and head back to their jobs. She only had an hour for lunch, and every minute counted. She later admitted she wished they had more time, that the rushed nature of it made everything feel unreal. Phil did call her again, and they repeated the encounter a second time in a similar location. She told me the second meeting was much like the first, though the details are blurrier for her now. She remembers the general experience, but not all the specifics. The third time happened much later, after she had left Central Bank and taken a new job at South Trust. When the new storefront branch finally opened, Diebold was called for repairs, and Phil showed up again. She hadn't told him she had changed jobs. When she approached him, they talked easily. The familiarity was still there. Later that week, Phil called her at the new location and arranged another meeting. This time they met at the Huntsville Aquatic Center. The encounter was similar to the previous 2, emotionally charged, physically intimate, and full of risk. I asked her if she had ever reached a satisfying emotional or physical moment with him, and she said no, adding that if she had, she might have left me for him. Over the years, we've discussed many details. She once asked me if I had ever been physically intimate with another woman in ways similar to how she had been with Phil. I told her no, which surprised her. She commented that she was simply doing what she had seen in adult films, not realizing how unrealistic those portrayals were. She told me one thing that haunted her. Phil didn't call her immediately after the first time. She interpreted that as a sign she had been bad or disappointing. That insecurity lingered with her. The reason she chose to cross those boundaries, she later confessed, was revenge, because I had been involved with Judy. In her mind, she told herself she was balancing the scales. though the emotional damage on both sides was far deeper than either of us admitted at the time. There was one particularly painful detail she revealed. After her final encounter with Phil, she missed her period for 2 months. Fear consumed her. She arranged to meet Phil again, this time along Highway 231. She told him she thought she might be pregnant. His response was brutally logical. How do you know it's mine and not your husband's? She admitted she might have told him she loved him during that conversation, believing at the time that she was ready to leave me and start a new life with him. Instead, Phil got back into his van and drove away, leaving her standing alone. Her greatest fear was that if she told me, I would count back the months and realize something didn't add up. Eventually, a doctor confirmed she was not pregnant. It was early menopause. Even now, decades later, I feel she hasn't told me everything. I suspect the affair may have lasted longer than she admitted, and that the number of meetings may be higher than the 3 she described. The gaps in her memory, the inconsistencies, the fading details, only add to my doubts. This is not a story of villains and heroes. It's a story of 2 people who hurt each other, hid from the truth, and lived in the shadow of choices they made long ago. But it's also a story I needed to tell, because secrets, even old ones, have a way of resurfacing. If you found this story gripping and want more true, emotional, real-life relationship stories, subscribe. Drop a comment, share your thoughts or similar experiences. Your engagement helps bring more stories like this to life.